My husband laughed about our prenup at dinner last night, told his friends I made him sign it, threw his hands up like a man surrendering to something harmless. His buddies cracked up, refilled their glasses. Across the table, he waited for me to play along. I smiled back. He's never read line 47. I have. I wrote it. 6 of us that night. His college roommate, 2 guys from his firm, their wives. The kind of dinner where everyone performs their marriage for an audience. 3 bourbons deep when he brought it up, waved his hand toward me and said, "She made me sign a prenup before the wedding. Can you believe that?" My own attorney. One of the wives tilted her head. "Wait, you were his lawyer?" "Contracts attorney." I kept my voice light. He came to me in 2018 needing one drafted before the wedding. "And you just wrote your own prenup?" I took a sip of wine. I wrote his prenup. "There's a difference." Everyone laughed. He laughed loudest. The thing about a joke is that it only works if you know the punchline. He didn't. Not yet. Let me take you back. March 2018. He walked into my office on a Wednesday afternoon, sat in the leather chair across from my desk, and told me he wanted a prenuptial agreement drawn up before our June wedding. We'd been together 2 years by then. He knew what I did for a living: complex contract law, asset protection, corporate dispute resolution. What he didn't understand was what that actually meant. I said yes. Started drafting that same week. A prenuptial agreement is a contract. Nothing more, nothing less. 2 parties defining what happens if the partnership dissolves. Most people treat it like an insult. I treat it like architecture. Every clause is a load-bearing wall. Remove one, and the whole structure shifts. 11 days, 49 pages. Section I through Section I, covering asset division, spousal support, business valuation methodology, retirement accounts, real property, standard language, airtight formatting, nothing a judge would blink at. Then there was Section V, financial remedies for material breach. Line 47 sat right in the middle of it. Here's what it said: if either spouse committed infidelity, defined broadly to include any romantic or sexual activity outside the marriage, the non-breaching spouse would be entitled to full recovery of any marital funds spent in connection with that infidelity. Not a flat penalty, not a lump sum. A dollar-for-dollar reclamation of every cent routed toward the affair. The standard of proof was civil, preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. The clause included confidentiality protections, meaning the accused spouse couldn't suppress evidence by claiming privacy. I didn't hide it. Walked him through every section in my conference room on a Saturday morning, coffee between us, the document flagged with yellow tabs. When I got to Section VI, he leaned back in his chair. "Babe, I trust you. Can we speed this up? I've got a tea time at noon." I told him he needed independent counsel, his own attorney, separate from me, to review the agreement before he signed. An attorney drafting a prenup cannot represent both parties. The interests are fundamentally antagonistic. I represented myself. He needed someone representing him. He said no, called it a waste of money. "You're already a lawyer. Why would I pay someone else to read what you wrote?" I asked again the following Tuesday. "Put it in an email." He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and the words, "Just tell me where to sign." The third time, I sent a certified letter to our shared address. Formal language, documenting his refusal. He tossed it on the kitchen counter next to the takeout menus and never mentioned it. So I drafted a waiver. 1 page. Clear language. He acknowledged the recommendation for independent counsel, declined it voluntarily, and accepted the agreement as written. He signed it on a Thursday evening at our kitchen island, still in his gym clothes, without reading past page 4. The pen touched paper. Something shifted in my chest. Not satisfaction. Something quieter. He looked up at me afterward with this expression I'll never forget. Open, easy, completely unguarded. Like the prenup was a box he'd checked off a wedding to-do list. Flowers, venue, cake, prenup. Done. He didn't see me as someone whose interests were opposed to his. He saw me as his partner, his attorney, his safe place. That assumption would cost him everything. But not yet. 3 weeks later, we got married. The prenup went into a filing cabinet in my home office. He never opened that drawer again. I never stopped knowing exactly what was inside it. Now snap back to that dinner table. His friends still laughing. His hands still raised in mock surrender. My wine glass still half full. Because that silence? It has a taste. He joked about the prenup like it was a leash I'd put on him. Something cute, something harmless. In 7 years, he's going to need to read line 47. And by then, it will be far too late. He called it trust. His lawyer would later call it malpractice. I called it exactly what it was, a choice. Here's what most people don't understand about prenuptial agreements, and what my husband certainly didn't grasp the afternoon he scrawled his name across page 12. An attorney cannot ethically represent both parties. The interests are fundamentally antagonistic. The West Virginia Supreme Court put it plainly: the nature of prenuptial agreements is such that the parties' interests are fundamentally antagonistic to one another, whether they feel like it or not. Lawyers are required to provide zealous advocacy for their clients. You cannot advocate zealously for two people sitting on opposite sides of the same contract. I represented myself when I drafted it. He had no representation at all. This wasn't a technicality buried in some procedural footnote. It was a flaw, a crack in the foundation wide enough to swallow the entire agreement if he ever thought to challenge it. And I knew that. I knew it the first time I asked him to retain independent counsel, and he waved me off like I was suggesting he buy earthquake insurance in Ohio. The second time, I sent a certified letter to our shared address explaining in plain English why he needed his own attorney to review every clause. The third time, I placed a signed waiver in front of him and watched his pen move without hesitation. 3 emails, 2 certified letters, 1 signed waiver, all time-stamped, all preserved. He thought he was saving money. What he was really doing was handing me the answer to every legal challenge he'd ever tried to mount. October 2021, Year 3. I was reconciling our joint accounts on a Sunday morning, something I did monthly, the way other people balance a checkbook. His coffee sat untouched on the counter. He was still asleep. The house was quiet enough to hear the dishwasher cycling through its final rinse. That's when I saw it. A wire transfer for $8,500 to an entity called Meridian Consulting LLC. I'd never heard of it. Not in conversation, not in his business filings, not in 7 years of knowing every professional contact he had. My fingers hovered over the trackpad for exactly 4 seconds. Then I opened the Delaware Division of Corporations database. Meridian Consulting LLC had been filed 6 weeks earlier. Registered agent, a UPS store in Wilmington. No website, no phone number, no public business presence of any kind. The payments continued. Monthly, $8,500, then $9,200, then $9,800. Always under $10,000, just below the threshold that triggers federal currency reporting requirements for cash transactions. A pattern federal law calls structuring. Someone had coached him on that number. Someone who understood structuring. I didn't confront him, didn't flinch across the breakfast table. My voice didn't catch when he mentioned a new vendor relationship in passing. Instead, I created a folder on my personal laptop, the one he never touched, the one with the fingerprint lock he didn't have access to. I labeled it simply, Meridian. Every transaction went in. Date, amount, originating account, receiving entity, running total. By month 9, the folder held $83,400 in documented transfers. He kissed me goodbye every morning, told me he loved me every night. The dishwasher kept cycling. The spreadsheet kept growing. Year 5 changed the geometry of everything I thought I knew. Apex Advisory Services appeared in our business account on a Wednesday. $7,500 wired to a different bank, routed through a different state. Same pattern, same careful amounts, different recipient. I cross-referenced the in against public records the way I'd cross-reference a case citation. Methodically, without emotion, the way you verify facts that will eventually stand in front of a judge. The registered owner of Apex Advisory Services was a woman named Vanessa Chen. I found her LinkedIn profile in under 90 seconds. Marketing consultant, MBA from the same business school he'd attended, 2 years behind him. Her profile photo showed dark hair, a confident smile, a blazer that looked expensive. She listed independent consulting as her current role. New firm name, new client list. Meridian Consulting's sole employee. Something shifted in my chest. Not rage, not grief. Not the dramatic collapse you see in movies where the betrayed wife crumbles against a bathroom door. What I felt was architectural. Load-bearing walls rearranging themselves inside my ribcage until the entire structure of my understanding clicked into a new configuration. Color, cleaner, structurally sound. I didn't hire a private investigator. I didn't need one. Joint accounts gave me his transaction history. His business records were filed in our shared office. 7 years of tax returns sat in the same cabinet as the prenup he'd never read past page 4. Every wire transfer already documented. Every consulting fee already logged. So I built a spreadsheet. Dates running down column A, amounts in column B, recipient entities in C, cumulative total in D, auto-calculated, updating in real time with each new entry. The number at the bottom read $427,000. I saved the file, backed it up to an encrypted cloud drive, a USB in my safe deposit box, and a hard copy locked in my desk at work. 3 locations, 3 copies. Redundancy is what separates evidence from accusation. Then I closed the laptop and went downstairs to make dinner. Because line 47 doesn't just penalize infidelity, it reclaims every dollar spent in connection with it. And he had been spending, methodically, consistently, for years, without ever realizing that every single receipt was building my case for me. You're wondering why I waited. Why I didn't file the moment I found Meridian, or the moment Vanessa's name surfaced, or the moment the total crossed 6 figures. The answer is simpler than you think. Line 47 requires proof under a civil standard, a preponderance of evidence, meaning it's more likely than not that infidelity occurred. 1 wire transfer is an anomaly. A dozen is a pattern. 47 is a fortress. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Face up. A text from a contact saved under a name I recognized instantly. It read, "He's getting suspicious. We need to talk." The contact name was mine. The text that lit up his phone, sent from a contact bearing my name, wasn't from me. Someone had saved my number under my name in Vanessa Chen's phone. A decoy. A way to make their conversations look like routine spousal check-ins if anyone glanced at her screen. He'd thought of everything except the one thing that mattered. I was already watching. Year 6 was the cruelest year, and not because of what he did, because of how well he pretended he wasn't doing it. Every morning, his lips pressed against my forehead before he left for work. Warm, unhurried. The kiss of a man with absolutely nothing to hide. What did I want for dinner? He'd text me photos of his lunch, some sandwich from a deli near his office, always captioned with a smiley face, as though documenting his meals proved his faithfulness. On our anniversary, he booked a corner table at the Italian place where he'd proposed. His hand found mine across white linen. I was the best decision he ever made, he said. 3 days later, a wire for $9,800 left our joint account, payable to Apex Advisory Services, Vanessa's company. I smiled at the notification the way you'd smile at a child who thinks they've hidden the cookie jar behind their back. He wasn't clever. He was comfortable. Comfortable people make patterns. Patterns are what courts understand. The late-night texts he deleted before setting his phone on the nightstand, I didn't need to read them. The weekend conferences in cities where his company had no clients, I didn't need to follow him. Hot water hit his skin the moment he walked through our front door, steam curling under the bathroom door like a confession. I didn't need to ask why. What I needed was volume. Exposed transactions stacking into a column so tall that no judge could look at it and call it coincidence. Line 47 demanded a preponderance of evidence, more likely than not. Every dollar he sent Vanessa was a brick in my case. By month 8 of year 6, the spreadsheet held 43 entries. The cumulative total crossed $427,000. I backed it up on an encrypted drive, a cloud server, and a flash drive I kept inside a tampon box under the bathroom sink. He would never look there. He never looked anywhere I actually was. Year 7, month 11. A Thursday in February. The wire hit differently. Not $8,500. Not $9,200. Not any of the careful, calibrated amounts he'd maintained for years, always tucked beneath the $10,000 federal reporting threshold, always just invisible enough. $15,000. The bank's automated system flagged it before I even opened the alert. Currency transaction report filed. His name attached. Apex Advisory Services listed as the recipient. A paper trail he couldn't erase, sitting in a federal database alongside his social security number. He'd gotten sloppy. Maybe Vanessa needed more. Maybe he'd stopped caring. Maybe 7 years of getting away with it had calcified into the belief that he always would. I added the entry to the spreadsheet. Row 44. $15,000. The new total glowed on my screen. $442,000. I closed the laptop. Sat in the dark of my home office for 11 minutes. Not because I was deciding what to do, I decided years ago. Because I wanted to feel the weight of the moment before I moved through it. Then I picked up my phone and called the most expensive divorce litigator in the state. Her name was Margaret Calloway. She didn't advertise. She didn't need to. Every family law attorney in the city knew her by reputation alone. A woman who'd never lost a prenuptial enforcement case in 22 years of practice. I brought her the spreadsheet, the prenup, the 3 emails, the 2 certified letters, the signed waiver where he declined independent counsel, 7 years of documentation organized into tabbed folders, each one labeled by year. Margaret read line 47, slowly. Her finger traced the language I drafted in 2018, the broad definition of infidelity, the civil proof standard, the reversion clause that reclaimed every dollar spent in connection with an extramarital relationship. She looked up from the page. You wrote this? I'm a contracts attorney. A pause. Then a smile that had nothing to do with warmth. He's going to wish he'd hired his own lawyer. His attorney filed the motion on a Thursday. By Friday morning, the counterargument sat on Margaret's desk, drafted, printed, waiting beside her coffee cup. The argument was predictable. Conflict of interest. I drafted the prenup while serving as his attorney, creating an inherent power imbalance. No independent counsel reviewed the document on his behalf. The infidelity clause buried in Section 8 was punitive, unconscionable, a trap disguised as a marriage contract. He wasn't entirely wrong. Prenups can be voided for procedural unfairness. When the parties' interests are fundamentally antagonistic, and in a prenuptial agreement, they always are. Both sides need independent representation. An attorney cannot ethically represent both parties or remain neutral. I knew this in 2018, knew it when I handed him the document, knew it when he flipped to page 4 and stopped reading. That's why I told him to hire his own lawyer. 3 separate times. 2 certified letters, return receipt requested. 1 signed waiver, acknowledging he'd declined independent counsel against my explicit recommendation. Every refusal documented, time-stamped, filed. The judge asked him directly, "Did your wife advise you to retain independent counsel before signing this agreement?" His jaw tightened. "Yes." "How many times?" Silence stretched across the courtroom like a wire pulled taut. Margaret submitted the waiver into evidence. His attorney objected. The judge overruled. By lunch, the motion to void was already dying on the table. What followed caught me off guard, though it shouldn't have. Vanessa Chen hired her own attorney, claimed the $442,000 routed through Meridian Consulting and Apex Advisory represented legitimate payments for actual marketing services rendered. She had invoices, contracts, a paper trail that looked professional until you held it up to light and noticed every single document was dated retroactively. Metadata timestamps clustered within a 48-hour window. Her real threat wasn't the lawsuit itself. It was the pressure it applied. She demanded repayment. His attorney advised him not to comply because under line 47, any additional payment connected to the extramarital relationship would trigger the reversion clause again. Every new dollar sent to Vanessa became another dollar owed to me. Paying her meant violating the prenup. Refusing meant facing civil litigation. The architecture of his own choices had become a room with no doors. His mother called on a Sunday evening. Her voice carried that particular tremor reserved for women who believe tears are a negotiation strategy. He'd made a mistake, she said. I was destroying the family. This level of punishment was cruel. I let her finish. Every word. Then, he signed a contract. I'm enforcing it. If you find that cruel, take it up with the attorney who drafted it. A breath. That was me. She hung up. Never called again. The final decree arrived on a Wednesday. $442,000 transferred back into my account. Every dollar he'd funneled through shell companies returned. The house went to me. Retirement accounts divided per the prenup's original terms. He kept his business. I kept everything that mattered. Vanessa sued him separately. He settled out of court, rumored at $200,000. By the time his legal fees, her settlement, and the prenup enforcement were tallied, the affair had cost him north of $700,000. I signed the final document in blue ink at my kitchen table, walked to the filing cabinet in my home office, opened the same drawer where the original prenup had sat for 7 years, placed the divorce decree on top of it, closed the drawer. My hands were steady. My chest felt hollow in a way that wasn't grief, more like the silence after a door finally shuts and you realize the draft you'd been living with for years is gone. I didn't need to raise my voice, didn't need to shatter plates or scream into pillows at 2 in the morning. I needed him to keep ignoring line 47 long enough to prove exactly why it existed. And he did. For 7 years, he did. If you've ever written something that someone else refused to read, and it changed everything, tell me about it. Subscribe. Next week's story took 9 years and one locked safe deposit box.